Okay, good morning. Good morning. Lovely to have you with us. And good morning, Rebbetzen Silber. I will respond to our message. Absolutely gorgeous, really gorgeous. And it's all very exciting. He's got next week is Purim and Shoshana Purim. So Mitzvah Hashem, we might be with you already by that stage. So I hope that you've got everything ready for us to join. I heard yesterday there was a family that moved into Neve from the Ukraine. So actually we should have probably raised money quicker and more money to do the renovations there for all of us to come in as a temporary place, right? I didn't think of that as a sales talk. You see, I should have been thinking about that more. So it's all very exciting. And we're just very excited to be here to continue with all our amazing Tehillim inspiration. And thank you everybody for being with us.
Okay. Let's see, is Michelle on yet? Let's see. I love Michelle. Not Marcel, Michelle. Let's see if you're on. Maybe
Okay, I'm just very excited about something, and I just love to share it if everybody's okay with that. And seeing that Marcel is here with us from Manchester, I just received a booklet that we have been working on. I shouldn't actually say this to in front of Marcel. We have had the calmest, easiest, most siyata dishmaya time, and it has only taken from my beginning of working on this little booklet is 1 year and 3 months, and it's very, very important. But this is the end result of our Tasim Hamishpacha new booklet that I had our son-in-law Dov Birnbaum do all the halachas. We have the artwork and everything of Kaufman. I thought you were putting your name at the back of the page, of Kaufman Printers, K Printers in Manchester, and the input of the people who know their input here are on the page. Juliet, I was coming to drop one energy, but then I would have been late for share. And it's really just a big zechus to have a new Tas Mishpacha, beautiful printed, and also with our skamas of Rabbi Zimmerman. So I'm just drinking a l'chaim and just saying thank you Hashem publicly. Thank you Hashem for allowing us the zechus together, because you can't do anything by yourself, and that's what it just shows. You have to do it together, and together we can as a nation do it. So thank you for your patience, and my thanks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to all of us.
Okay. Wow. Mazel tov, mazel tov. Amazing. Okay. Ezrat Hashem. Everybody knows that whoever's looking for a shidduch should study that book, even before they're in the parsha. That's what the tzaddikim say. Study the halachas. Okay, so I just met one of you on the street. I met Michelle's mother on the street. I love it when that happens. That I was just walking around. I was walking, not paying attention. She stopped me, and she's here for a week visiting her other kids. And so that's amazing when we have each other. And I'm so happy that so many of you have children here, and have some of you have children down the block. So Baruch Hashem, you're going to be okay. But as Hashem, you'll be okay. You'll be fine. I follow the work that you're all doing in terms of raising money, and in terms of all the events that you have, and the activity and the activism that you have. I will just tell you that I have, as I told you a few times, and I told all the classes, the Rav of Lvov, his daughter is very close to. So I ask her all the time, like, what's happening, So she said, now, just to know where your money's going, and I hope that the CIA is not listening on to our shir, but if they are, okay, they know this anyway, that in order to get the men out of Ukraine, they have to pay a lot of money, because officially the men from age 18 to 60 are not allowed to leave because they're of army age. But situation. And
there's someone who's unmuted, and I don't have the ability to mute everybody today because I'm not the host. Shoshana, thank you. That's what we got.
Anyway, so there's a lot of money that's necessary to get our families, including the men. That's where a lot of the money is going to now. And as you know, yes, we already got the email this morning, actually last night, that families from Ukraine are coming to Harnof. And so Baruch Hashem, the word is out that they're coming. And this particular family, they're Breslov. So someone sent me an email like, what's the name of what time is the Breslov Shul Daven? So we're already in touch, Baruch Hashem, and Be'ezrat Hashem. Be'ezrat Hashem. Okay, so now what pasuk are we up to? We're in Chav Hey. What pasuk? Who remembers? Taking us a long time, but that's okay. It's important. Every pasuk has lots to talk about.
I think we just finished Chet. I think.
Yeah.
Chet.
Does anybody agree or disagree?
Yes, that's where we're up to.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Great. Okay, so we're up to 10. Now, remember we said that there are 3 psukim missing. David HaMelech is such a cool guy. Several times in Tehillim when he puts his, by the way, today's Moshe Rabbeinu's yard site, right? Today, Moshe Rabbeinu. So now I'll say actually a quick tefillah that the Rav Shlomo Yehuda, he wrote a tefillah to say when we're learning Torah. So I'm just going to say it now. I'm just going to paraphrase a little bit of it in English. We ask Hashem that he should put on us the merit of Moshe ben Amram Yechedet, and that the merit of all of our forefathers should be on us, and that when we learn Torah, that our bodies should be purified, and that we should take off. All of this is Kabbalistic, but it's about Moshe Rabbeinu's yard site. We should take off the body, the unholy parts of our body should be shed, and we should have a holy body. Wow. Whoa. 1 second. 1 second. Wow. 1 second. And we say this specifically when we're learning Torah, that the Torah that we learn should purify our bodies and should bring Hashem nachas ruach, and the holiness of Moshe Rabbeinu should enter into each one of us so that we have the ability to really learn Torah and to integrate it into our very being. And that's what we say on today, on Zayin Adar. And you know that today is a big day in terms of, the whole Purim story, because Haman Yimar Shemo, he made the mistake of saying, oh, Zayin Adar and Moshe Rabbeinu's yard site. So that's what we're celebrating today. That whatever the nations of the world try to destroy us, and Hashem protects us. Okay, therefore, Tov Yashar Hashem Pasuk. It's Pasuk Chet. We didn't do Pasuk Chet, or we did do Pasuk Chet? Yeah, we did Pasuk Chet.
We did do it.
So we're up to you. Okay, so we're up to Pasuk Tet, which starts with the letter Yud. That's what, because the Pasukim are in alphabetical order. I think we did this also.
No, I've got it circled that we need to start on Tet.
Okay, and look at how perfect this is, because this is talking about the humility of Yadrech Hanadim B'Mishpat. So Hashem, David HaMelech is saying that Hashem guides humble people with justice in a fair way. V'Yelamed Hanadim Darko, and Hashem teaches the humble people all of the ways of God. And that's absolutely perfect, because Moshe, in this feeling that I just paraphrased, which actually is much longer than I thought, that's why we're asking Hashem to help us to be humble, like Moshe Rabbeinu, and to be and to be have a healthy understanding of reality. And the word anavim here is repeated twice. Now, I'm going to just tell you something in terms of those of you who are studying to be Tehillim teachers, right? So many of you could now teach Tehillim because we're learning Tehillim for a long time. So David HaMelech, when he repeats something in a pasuk, he usually changes the words. We're on Chaf Hey 25, so when David HaMelech takes a phrase in Tehillim, and the second phrase in the pasuk is a expansion of the first phrase, he doesn't use the same words. He usually uses different words. But here, Dafka, he uses the word anavim. Hashem should take humble people and he should guide them and he should teach them. And David HaMelech himself was called a humble person. He himself said, V'hayiti in Shmuel, in the book of, in the Navi, it says, V'hayiti shafal be'inai. David HaMelech said about himself. It's not in Silber, it's in the book of Shmuel. Aleph, V'hayiti shafal be'inai, which means David HaMelech said about himself, I am very lowly in my own eyes. Now, what does that mean? Because we know that in the times of, you have to work with humility in a healthy way. In the year 2022, by the Goyish year 2022, we have so many problems with healthy self-esteem that we cannot be like the Navardikers. The Navardikers from, the 18 and the 1900s, they would walk into a store in the middle of the summer. They would be wearing heavy overcoats and big fat rain boots in Europe. And they wanted people to make fun of them because that's how they broke their ego. So they had a thing of appearing absurd in the eyes of people. So people would look at them and say whoa, that guy's crazy. And in that way, they toned down their ego. That was the way of Navardik 100 and something years ago. We can't do that anymore. Our egos are so fragile and we're full of so many people have been so abused and so hurt that we have to actually bolster our egos and build up our egos. So what does it mean, humility? We said this many, many times, but we'll just repeat it. Humility means acknowledging your talents, acknowledging your beauty, acknowledging your gifts, acknowledging everything, and then saying thank you to Hashem. When someone gives you a compliment, don't say whatever. Don't say it's not true. Say thank you. Yes, thank you and thank you. Thank you, Hashem. It's a pure gift from Hashem. It's a gift from Hashem. That's called humility nowadays. Accepting a compliment, because it's true. You're a good, whatever it is. You're a good cook. You're a good mom. You're a good bubby. You're a great organizer. Whatever it is that you are. Accept it. It's true. Don't lie. But then say, but that's Hashem gave that to me. That's called anavim. That's called the letter ayin. For those of you who have an ayin in your Hebrew name, because the letter ayin, I don't have my Aleph Beis book with me, but if you look at the way the ayin is written in the Sefer Torah, the ayin, and then there's a nun there and there's a vav. The letter ayin itself spells out the words with its composite letters, anav, humility. So Hashem helps humble people. And what does he do? He keeps them, he helps them when they're in a mishpat. A mishpat means when they're in a court case. Sometimes humble people get stepped on. Hashem's going to help you. And Hashem helps you to know the right way to live. So if you know someone in your life who has low self-esteem, and that can manifest in eating disorders, in body image, in feeling like a shlamazel, or a person who has low self-esteem could also be very much antagonistic and a bulldozer kind of a person who insults other people. But really, why does someone insult someone else? Only when they feel themselves, not when they feel like low self-esteem. When they don't feel that they're as good as everybody else, they're going to try to put down everybody else instead of picking themselves up. So if you have someone in your life like that, say this pasuk for them. Kol achos Hashem chesed ve'emes, and I'm going to go a little quicker. All the ways of Hashem are chesed and emes. Chesed and emes, all the ways of God are orchos. Orchos tzadikim amshusam if you learned that sefer. It means the paths. All the ways of God are chesed and emes. Now, chesed means love and kindness, and emes means truth. And they are actually opposites. Because chesed means I'm doing you a favor. That means you don't deserve it, but I'm going to give you anyway. And emes means you deserve something, and therefore I'm going to give it to you. So they're really opposites. Chesed is Avraham Avinu. Emes is actually Yaakov Avinu, who's a perfect combination of emes and gvura. Whatever it is, a Jew has to learn how to balance being straightforward and being kind and giving. Now we know that on Purim, which is a week from today, and by you guys and by us, it's a week from tomorrow, but as Hashem, so you're all welcome to come. If you're in Eretz Purim, stop by on any of the days. So we know that on Purim we have to be chesed. Anybody who asks you for anything, you have to give them. And it doesn't mean, by the way, just money. It means any kind of a favor. Someone asks you for something on Purim, give them. That's called chesed, because Hashem did for us, pure chesed. And we have to know how to balance always chesed and emes. Sometimes you have to be strict, sometimes you have to be kind. And Hashem's, if you're a person, so you might say, well, how am I going to know? The answer is, if you follow halacha, number one. If you study Torah, number two. And if you're you do acts of kindness, then you will know intuitively, you'll have da'as Torah. Ladies, I'm telling you, now Hashem is doing everything very quickly. It used to be in olden days, you had to be like an old Rebbetzen to have da'as Torah. They wouldn't come to talk to you. If you were like this young whatever, they wouldn't ask you for advice. But nowadays, all of us, we get da'as Torah. Da'as Torah means a Torah mind. How do you get a Torah mind? By keeping the Torah, number one. Keeping the mitzvahs. You cannot do it without keeping, if you're asking somebody advice, they might be a great psychologist, but if they're not shomer Torah mitzvahs, whatever advice they're giving you might be correct psychologically, but you don't necessarily know if it's correct spiritually or if it's correct bichlal. How do you know that you're giving good advice and you can have confidence in yourself? If you are a shomer Torah mitzvahs, you keep mitzvahs and you learn Torah and you do kindness, because the Gemara says, how do you get saved from all of the Chavlei Mashiach, the birth pangs of Mashiach? By learning Torah and by doing kindness, by keeping mitzvahs. That's it. So you'll know how to be chesed, you'll know how to be emes. And who is this? Who knows how to be chesed and emes? L'notzrei b'ritol ve'edotav, those who keep Hashem's brysh. They keep the commandments. Oh, today's a brysh by you, ve'edotav and his mitzvahs. One of you is having a brysh today, right? Do you know? One of the chevra? Okay, so I'm not going to say. One of the girls, and maybe it's in the other, I go to England twice a week now. So maybe it's the other England group is having a brysh actually right now, probably. Yeah, probably right now. Okay. So how do you know how to do chesed? You have to be a person who keeps everything. Now listen, chevra, you know that to keep everything might be very overwhelming, but Hashem says you have to keep what you know and what you can do, not what you don't know and what you can't do. Right now, if you're prevented from coming to Eretz Yisrael, so you can't keep the mitzvahs until Lios Ba'aretz. You can't keep the mitzvahs. Today I got my holy bananas. Here we still have Shavuos bananas. We have food that grew by itself in the year of Shemitah. When anything grows by itself without planting, when it grows by itself during the Shemitah year, the food itself, usually it's in the beginning of Shemitah is a few vegetables. Towards the end, it's actually going to be fruit. That food and fruit is called Shavuos or Kedusha Shavuos. It has holiness. You eat it, it's like eating semi-Beis HaMikdash food. So, but you can't do that because you're in Chutz La'aretz. And this kind of food, you're not allowed to export. You're not allowed to take it out of Eretz Yisrael, whatever grew during Shemitah. But whatever you can do. That will give you da'as Torah. It'll give you the ability to think correctly. Now, one of the biggest mitzvahs that we have is loving each other, right? Let's say you can't think correctly. Something is in your life, you're nogei b'davar, you have too much invested, you can't be impartial. So you do the mitzvah of by how? By calling up your friend, calling up your local Rebbetzen, calling up your local rabbi and talking it over with them. That's also called da'as Torah. Da'as Torah, which means the Torah mind, will tell you when you can make a decision on your own and when you sometimes have to talk it over with somebody. Talking it over with somebody is a mitzvah from the Torah. Yeah, there's many psukim that tell us, Asay l'charav. There's all these different ways of understanding how is it that if you can't figure something out, you have to talk to somebody about it, either a friend, if it's something small, or a rabbinical, Rebbetzenical person. Now listen, I say these words, L'man Shmo be'ahava, L'man Shimcha Hashem. For your name, Hashem, for your name. We say this in davening. For God's sake. It's interesting because in America, I don't know if in British, yeah, you have that. It wasn't considered like a holy thing to say. It was considered like a frustrating, like when a person is frustrated, they say that. But that's because the root of it is correct. We should, for Hashem's sake, we need to do things for Hashem's sake. Because if you say, I want to do it for Hashem's sake, then you're in good company, you and Hashem. For example, you're having company. You want them to enjoy Shabbos. Maybe they're weak in Shabbos. You say, Hashem, please, for your sake, not for my sake, not for my sake, and not for my honor, and not for my popularity, but for your sake, Hashem, let the food come out good. Let the cleaning lady come. Let me have a good, give us good weather so that people should enjoy. That's called L'man Shimcha Hashem. For Hashem's sake, we ask Hashem that for his sake, we should succeed. L'man Shimcha Hashem. In order, for your sake, Hashem, because we represent God. I always tell this to my nevegos and they crack up. For Balei Tshuva, a Balas Tshuva, Choser B'Tshuva, a Mitchazeket, somebody who's getting stronger. If she has to Chas Hashem go back to Chutz La'aretz, she becomes the Rebbetzen of her family. Her family doesn't know anything. Now she comes back, whoa, she was in Israel studying for 3 weeks. Now she's the Rebbetzen. So yeah, that's what you are. Every one of you, no matter what you are, you are a Rebbetzen to somebody else. So L'man Shimcha Hashem, please Hashem, for your sake. For your sake, Hashem, the shir should come out good. For your sake, the food should come out good. For your sake, Yerushalayim should be built up. For your sake, Hashem, a shir should come. Not for our sake necessarily, for your sake. Please Hashem, you have to forgive me because I have so many mistakes. Please Hashem, forgive me, forgive my sins. Kiravhu, because my mistakes are gigantic. Now listen to this. David HaMelech says this. Did David HaMelech had terrible sins like us? I don't think he said a word of Lashon Hara in his life. The Gemara says that anyone who thinks that David sinned is making a mistake. And we have a whole bunch of adventures of David HaMelech. The Gemara is saying that by Bathsheba, by the story of Bathsheba. That looked like a pretty bad story. And yet the Gemara says, no, he didn't do a mistake. So what does it mean? Please forgive my sin, Hashem, ki ravhu, because it's very, very big. What does that mean? So my Rav Moshe Burstein, Zatzal, I once asked him this question, but I asked him not about Tehillim, I once asked him about Likutei Sfilot. So for those of you who know, there's a certain book called Likutei Sfilos. It was written by Rabbi Nassim Breslover. Rabbi Nassim Breslover was Rabbi Nachman Breslover's primary student, and he was the one who wrote that. He was the one who transcribed everything that Rabbi Nachman wrote. Without Rabbi Nassim Breslover, we would know nothing about Rabbi Nachman. So and he wrote a book of prayers. Why? Because listen to this. Because Rabbi Nachman says that whenever you learn a piece of Torah, you should translate it into a prayer. And whenever you pray, you should try to accomplish what you've just prayed. Tefillah and Torah, Torah and Tefillah. What does that mean? It means, let's say, for example, right now, we're learning Tehillim. It's easier to translate that into a prayer because the whole thing is a prayer. But let's say you're learning the laws of Shabbos. Let's say you read the Parsha this week. The Parsha this week is really, really hard to put into practice because it's Vayikra. It's about the Karbanos, about the sacrifices in the Beis HaMikdash and the Mishkan. Like, how are we going to make that relevant? So you're supposed to say, after you read the Parsha, or whatever you learn, you're supposed to say, please Hashem, however I can accomplish this in my life, please let me accomplish it. If you read anything that is relevant, Shabbos, let's say Shabbos, right? A very sweet, very sweet shir by Rabbanit Be'eri. She says something very interesting. You know that Megillas Esther is about Esther and Malka, right? Some of you have that name, Esther and Malka, right? So Megillas Esther is about Esther and Malka, and there's this thing about queens. There's the Queen Vashti, the bad queen, and all the contests to make queens. And then Esther gets chosen to be queen. And then Achashverosh, how does he kill Haman? Because Haman falls on Esther. And Achashverosh says, and my queen, you're falling on my queen while I'm in the house, right? It's a lot of queen stuff going on in Megillas Esther. So Rebbetzen Rabbanit Be'eri says there's another queen in Megillas Esther. It's Shabbos, right? Shabbos HaMalka. you can go look through Megillas Esther. You're going to see hints and see if you can find hints to Shabbos in Megillas Esther. I'm not going to tell you any of them, but I'm going to give you a present. Even though next week on Thursday we're not going to have a shir because it's Purim, but on Wednesday there is a shir, and Rebbetzen, if she wants, we'll send you a link to it. And they're going to have a big shir next Wednesday at the same exact time this time for you guys. And it's actually going to be a little bit earlier, I think. Maybe it's going to be too early for you now. I'm just thinking maybe it'll be 10 to 11, 11 to 12, 12. Maybe it'll be 10 o'clock in the morning. So that means 8 o'clock by you. Ugh, okay, you'll get up early. And on Megillas Esther and on how Shabbos is hidden, woven into the whole book of Esther. And that's why Shabbos is a very special mitzvah, to connect the Shabbos before Purim, the Shabbos after Purim. Here in Eretz Yisrael, in Yerushalayim HaKodesh, Purim goes into Shabbos because we celebrate Purim, Yerushalayim Purim on Friday. So it's going to go into, everybody has a different way of doing it, but it's going to go into Shabbos. Anybody who's going to say, I remember once in America, Purim was on Shabbos. Is that possible? Yeah, I think it was. I'm pretty sure that once Purim in America was on Shabbos. Can it ever be by you on Shabbos? Because I remember that I had a bunch of drunk guys who just slept through, and they had to stay for Shabbos because they couldn't move. I guess it could fall on Shabbos, maybe, or maybe it was, I don't know. I seem to recall something like that.
Maybe it was Erev Shabbos. I don't remember. But,
no.
Well,
Erev Shabbos, Friday.
Erev Shabbos, and they slept through Shabbos on your floor. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, they slept through Shabbos. Yeah, they ended up having a whole bunch of people because they couldn't move.
Isn't that when it works Purim Mishulash, and we have, and then you continue? So that's what it could be.
Yeah. Erev Shabbos. Yeah, like what we have this year. It was, yeah. I'll see, and Esther just popped on. Okay, so when Rabbi Nassan writes, if you really could tefillos, a lot of times he writes like he's the worst person in the world, and he feels so horrible about himself, like all these. And I once asked Moshe, brysh, and I said, how could that be? Like, I get depressed reading these tefillas. Like, if Rabbi Nassan writes that about himself, like, how could that be? And he said, Rabbi Nassan wrote that for us. He wasn't like that, but he wrote that for us. He wrote that we should have what to say. So when David Melch writes, forgive my sin kirafu, because it's gigantic, he meant for us to say that. It's not that he has big sins, because the Gemara says he didn't. Okay, so Misa Hayishirei Hashem. Who is a person who fears God? Who is that person that fears Hashem? This is a rhetorical question, really. It's not like I'm asking a question here, but it's like, wow, the person who fears Hashem. Yorenu b'derech yivchar. Hashem will show him. The word Yorenu is the word Mora, like the Torah. Torah teaches us. He teaches us b'derech yivchar, in the way that he chooses. Now, this is a gigantic question mark about free choice. Do you have free choice or not? Does a person have free choice or not? So I'm going to just tell you very quickly, in Chassidus. In Chassidus, we're taught that really there's a very, very small amount of free choice that a person has. You can't, everyone agrees you have no choice while we're already alive. Before we were alive, we had choice. You know that? The Zohar Kodesh says, and Rav Ginsburg talks about this, that before we were alive, and it says also in Sefer, I think, Pri Megadim, that before we were alive, when we were still in a neshama, Hashem called us to his inner chamber, and he said, okay, listen, you get a chance to come back to life again. Here's going to be the circumstances of your life. And we see our whole entire life. Meaning, we see our challenges. We see who is going to be our parents and who's going to be what neighborhood we're going to be born into, and what level of intelligence, and what level of wealth, what level of physicality, etc., etc. And then Hashem shows us why each of these circumstances that we're given is helpful to our soul's progress. And then we have to agree. That's our original free choice. To agree to everything that we're going through now and that we're struggling against and that we're screaming about, we agreed to it. So Hashem, who's a person who truly is aware of God? He's the person, I'm saying this in Chassidus, that person, you should know, he's going to be shown, given life in the way that he's already chosen, meaning he signed off on it. He agreed to have this kind of a life. Not just that, but we know that the Torah tells us about Paro. What does it mean when God hardened Paro's heart? Does that mean Paro had no free choice? The Gemara says he, in the beginning, had total free choice. He could have. We were one of many different nationalities in Egypt, and he could have treated us nicely, and he didn't have to enslave us and be cruel to us. He could have been kind and used us and given us a good life. After all, Jews are always smart. Every single country that Jews live in, we contribute very tremendously to the economy, to the social structure, to the sciences, etc., etc. So Paro could have used that. Instead, what did he do? He went into a crazy mode of, these people are threatening to me. Maybe they'll harm me. Maybe they'll revolt against me. Maybe they'll create. What? Why did he do that? Why did he have to do such a thing? And because he did that, he chose to be negative. So Hashem said, okay, that was your choice. Now the rest of the choice is going to be one big snowball. Same thing with everything. Let's say you choose to live in a non-Jewish neighborhood where there's no synagogues, there's no mikvahs, there's no kosher food. But you found a gorgeous house at a very good price. Okay, so that was your choice. Gorgeous house, very good price. But now you have a snowball effect. There's no shul, there's no mikvah, there's no kosher shuls, there's no anything, right? So there's a whole snowball effect that happens to you. So the idea of free choice, forget about God knowing, but the idea of how much choice we have. So we have general choices. What we do have choice is, for sure, is how we react to situations that we have no choice over. That's exactly what we have the most free choice over. Somebody insults you. You had no choice about that person insulting you. Now you have choice. How will you react to that person's insult? You had no choice, and and when I say no choice, I mean no choice now that we're in the body. We had this major choice. We already accepted all of this when we were in the world of souls. But right now you have a choice. You purchase something, you find out that the guy cheated you. Now what do? You have a choice. You can go back. You can figure out You can figure out how to react, how to respond. That's the choices that we have. Hashem leads us in the way that we choose. In general, if you want to be holy, Hashem will lead you. So how you want to be, you want to have holy friends, you want to have a holy neighborhood, Hashem will help you to do that. Only if you're Yirei Hashem, if you want to be God aware. Yirei Hashem doesn't mean fearing God. It means God aware. Misa Ish. Now this might remind you of Miha Ish Achavas Chaim, because we're going to have that in a few prakim, right? Misa Ish Yirei Hashem, the person that Hashem the person that really wants Hashem, Hashem will lead them, and Hashem will lead them in a good way, in the path that they're choosing, a good path. Now we all know that we're davening our heads off for our kids and our grandchildren, that they should stay shom and mitzvahs, that they should stay protected, that they should stay well, right? And that they should choose correctly, right? You always tell your kids, been there, done that. Don't do that. I did that already. It didn't work. And then the kids say to you, a smart kid says, really, tell me about that. And a kid has a different set of mind will say, well, you got a chance to choose, so let me get a chance to choose. And you want to say to them, no, but it's not good. And they say, well, I want to try it, and then I'll see if it's not good. What can you do? We have to pray our heads off that our kids should be healthy and should make the right choices. I told you last week, we learned last week, that what's happening in the world now with Ukraine and Russia, the leaders of these two countries really don't have too much choice, because Hashem, Leiv Malachim B'Yad Hashem, Pasuk says. Really Hashem, on big people, when Hashem wants to speed up the Mashiach process, he makes crazy things happen. Just think about it. I don't know if you know, right? We had 2 years of Corona. What was before Corona? I forgot already. What was going on before Corona? Probably just like the regular missiles that we were getting from the south Yeah, we had like a few wars here in the summer, right? Then we had Corona a couple of years. Immediately, now we have like on top of Corona, which is Baruch Hashem, no more Corona. As you know, they said they're going to give Putin the Peace Prize because he eradicated Corona. So, because no one's talking about it anymore, right? And now there's a war in the world. And now in Israel, they're saying something about polio. One kid got polio, so they're making the whole going. It's like Hashem is giving one thing after the next. Why is Hashem doing this? You know why? Because not everybody's on the Thursday Tehillim Shir. The Thursday Tehillim Shir, you have 30 tzidkaniyot, and the ones who are going to be listening later, right? So not everybody's on the Tehillim Shir Thursday. The ones who are not, how are they going to wake up to Torah? So Hashem gives wars, Hashem gives pandemics, Hashem gives all kinds of crazy things happening with governments. Because people are supposed to wake up and say something, I have to do something in my life. I have to do something worthwhile in my life. I told the class yesterday, the group ladies yesterday, I didn't follow up on this because I just saw this in the kosher news that the editor of the newspaper called Russia Today. Russia Today is an online newspaper that is actually a spokesman, the voice of the Russian government. I think it's in English even. Yeah, I think it's in English. Anyway, the editor is some woman, and she resigned. And she then spoke up against Putin, and then she said she does not believe in his invasion of Ukraine. Now, and she said about herself, she said, now she knows that she just condemned herself to death, because if a person in Russia has, a public person, you're not allowed to say anything against the government. Now getting thrown into jail is the minimum. She said she knows she condemned herself to death. That's what she said. And she said all of a sudden all of her friends have abandoned her. But she says she thinks the world's going to anyway go into nuclear. So why doesn't she might as well say what she really wants to say, because the world's going to. So we don't know what's happening. What we do know is a lot of people are praying to God. A lot of people are very worried. A lot of people are recognizing the lies that their government officials have been giving them. So that's why Hashem is doing it. Okay, and for us, we're the people who learn Tehillim and say Tehillim and do all these mitzvah tank things and all the things that you're doing there and be makar everybody and making all of those, bookmarks and booklets and books and all those things. Every one of us, Baruch Hashem, I think we're in a pretty good place spiritually, but we can always go higher. We can always be better. Right? Yeah, we could. So Hashem says, all right, listen, you guys know what's going on here. You guys believe me already. You believe in it. We believe in Hashem. We do mitzvahs, right? The whole world doesn't yet, so they have to be woken up. So Hashem is trying to wake them up. You should know that in one of my groups that I teach, we have a lot of non-Jews, believe it or not, in my classes. They're called B'nai Noach. Yeah, women who are not Jewish, but they were given a head. There are certain classes that they're in Torah, and they come, and they don't have an inclination to convert. I've taught many B'nos Noach over the years. Some of them actually converted. A Bat Noach means a non-Jewish person who keeps the 7 mitzvahs B'nai Noach because God says to in the Torah. And a Bat Noach or a Ben Noach knows there's Hashem, there's the Jewish people, and there's the Gentiles. And the Gentiles are supposed to help the Jewish people to fix this world. And you need Gentiles in this world. So they become righteous Gentiles. And so there are so many more of these people coming out of the woodwork because they realize that something major is going on in the world. So Hashem shows us. Who does Hashem show? Hashem shows the ones who want to see him. Nafsho b'tov talim. The person's nefesh will rest in a good place, will live in a good place. V'zar'o yirash aretz. And his children will inherit or will populate the world. Again, this person who's Yirei Hashem, that means us. We're searching for God. We're searching for God. We want to have spiritual experience. we remember what it feels like to be spiritually connected to Hashem. Not every day do we accomplish this. Most days are, like hard work to try to connect to Hashem. But you remember what it feels like to have a good davening. You remember what it feels like to proudly dress sanua and let people look at you and say, whoa, that's right. I'll tell you that. We know that. I can tell you lots of stories. Let me just continue in the psukim. So that person who's searching for God, you should know that the nefesh of that person is always going to be in a good place. Now, what is that? Nafsho, his nefesh, her nefesh, is betov talin. It lives, talin means it dwells and abides in a good place. What does that mean? It means like this. The true you, that's so funny because I just heard myself. The true you, your neshama, because sometimes in Tehillim, David Melch uses the words nefesh, neshama, maybe you have to mute yourself, sweetheart. The nefesh, ruach, and neshama in Tehillim, David Melch interchanges them. In other words, it's not always the exact level, right? Neshama is the highest, ruach is the next highest, nefesh is the lowest, right? He interchanges them. It means your neshama is always in a good place. Your brain and your emotions might be in a bad mood, but your neshama is always in a good place. If you speak to anyone or you hear shiurim of anybody who actually had an out-of-body experience, and I don't know if any of you did have an out-of-body experience, please call me and tell me about it because I love to hear these stories. People, I don't remember having an out-of-body experience, but people who do explain that their soul is so much bigger than we can. It's right now our soul stuck in, it's squished into a body. It's mitzumtzam into it's narrowed into a body, constricted into a body. And because of the soul is constricted into the body, its consciousness or our consciousness is limited. But once the soul, when you're more in touch with your soul, then you're much bigger than you can imagine. So your soul's always in a good place. But sometimes your brain has to catch up to it. You should know that you're always going to have children. You're always going to have, now listen, what about people who don't have children? It means that the Jewish people will always be in the world. People who don't have children in one particular lifetime, it's because they have children in other lifetimes and their children are populating the world. And the Jewish people are populating the world. As you know, the very famous story in the concentration camps when one child, Dr. what's her name, brings into one of her books, the child asked the father, in the concentration camp, the man Hishtana, they had like a seder, but no matzah, no maror, well, they had plenty of maror, but no matzah, no wine. So the kid asks, the child asks the father, the son asks the father, I have a lot of questions. One of the questions is, will we be here next year to make a seder? And the father said, I don't know if we'll be alive next year to make a seder, but some Jew somewhere in the world will be alive to make a seder. And look at us, here we are, millions of Jews in Eretz Yisrael, and we're always going to be. If there are no Jews, that's how Shabbos was. I'm going to give you a hint to next week's year. That's how Shabbos was able to save. One of the ways that Shabbos was able to save the Jewish people from extinction is because Shabbos said to Hashem, if you destroy the Jews, who's going to keep Shabbos? And if no one keeps Shabbos, then the world and the universe will revert back to nothingness. So there's always going to be Jews. And it's so funny because how many Hamans and Hitlers, Yimach Shemam, try to get rid of us? No, Baruch Hashem, to my knowledge, there's no biological remnants of Hitler, Yimach Shemam. And we don't have anyone in planet Earth that actually traces their lineage to Haman. Maybe there is somebody here, but they certainly don't brag about it. But us, yeah, we have family trees. My mother's side of the family has a family tree all the way back to Rashi, to David HaMelech. There's a big jump in it. But anyway, here we are. We're not going anywhere. Why? Because we keep mitzvahs. Because without us, the universe doesn't have to exist, because Hashem made the universe to make mitzvah. Why? Because every mitzvah that we do brings God into the world. And God's whole plan was He wants to dwell with us. So we're always going to be here. That's why it was such a big mistake for the Reform people to think, Reform in Germany, to think, that if they compromise a little bit in Torah mitzvahs, then they'll be able to survive, right? Nah. The Reform movement isn't growing, but the Baal Tshuva movement, every year there's another Baal Tshuva yeshiva. Baruch Hashem. Sod Hashem Lireyav. We're talking a lot about Yirei Hashem. This is a very famous teaching. Sod Hashem Lireyav Uvri Sola Hosiam. Sod Hashem Lireyav. These three words are talking about who's allowed to learn Kabbalah. What does Sod mean? Sod means the secrets. The secrets of Hashem are only allowed to be known and will only become known to those who fear Hashem, to those who keep the mitzvah. The Kabbalah centers that are teaching, that are having all the different things, they're not teaching Kabbalah, and they don't know the Sod, they don't know the true secrets. They're playing with all kinds of whatever they do, but Sod Hashem, who knows the true secrets of God, is Lirei Av, those who fear Him. That's why, and I'm going to say something now, please forgive me, and don't get nervous, and don't get upset. But I'm going to give you a rule about people who say that they're Mekubalim, Kabbalists. If Sod Hashem, who knows the Sod, who knows the secrets of the Torah? Only those who fear Hashem, and not those who charge money. If you can only go to a Mekubal and you have to charge money to make an appointment, I'm not a fan. And even if it's charity and tzedakah for the yeshiva and all of that, there's such a thing as pidyon nefesh. There's such a thing as a pidyon nefesh. A pidyon nefesh means that you give money in lieu of your own soul. It's tzedakah, tzedakah tatzil limavis. You have to do it. There's such a thing as a pidyon nefesh. A pidyon nefesh, again, is a redemption of the person. To do a pidyon nefesh, you have to give over some money. You do. But you have to do this with somebody who knows how to do a pidyon nefesh. There's a whole. So Sod Hashem, who knows the true secrets of the Torah? The more righteous you are, the more good, the better you are, the more holy you are, the more connected you are. That's a person who can learn the secrets of the Torah. That's why it says that the secrets you shouldn't learn Kabbalah till age 40, and that was in the olden days when we had lots of time to learn Torah. Nowadays, we're all learning Kabbalah already for years and years, because the Baal Shem HaKadosh, what he did was he distilled Kabbalah. All Hasidus is Kabbalah, the mystical part of the Torah, but said in easier form to understand. Kabbalah is now, the real Kabbalah we don't learn. When I was younger in yeshiva, we didn't talk about neshamas, we didn't talk about gilgulim, we didn't talk about souls, we didn't talk about reincarnations, because they said that's too Kabbalistic. Now everybody talks about it. You go on YouTube, you can have a non-Jewish class about souls and reincarnations, because that's a certain level of Kabbalah. The real levels is very hard to understand. But whatever it is, the more righteous you are, the deeper you learn Torah, and the deeper you understand Torah. I'm so sorry for these psukim, because I just want to get to the next pasuk, which is the one we learned about. And who does Hashem make a brysh with, a treaty with, a partnership with? To those who learn Torah, to those who learn Torah. Hashem makes he makes an agreement with us. He makes a contract with us. Now, all of you know all of this. It's just, Chazal tell us that this particular parak of Tehillim is to push away negativity. Saying these psukim push away negativity. That's why in the Nusach of the Ari, in the Siddur, this is right after Shemona Esrei, right after Vidui, you say this. you say this Tehillim. Okay, here's our pasuk. The whole pasuk, the first pasuk of the 4 that we say when we're looking at the sky and we're davening to Hashem. Einai tamid el Hashem. My eyes are always searching for God. My eyes are always directed towards God. My eyes are always seeking God. And my eyes are always wanting to do the will of God. And only He can set my feet free from the trap that they are in. Because He will release, He will take out mereshes from the trap, from a net, raglai, my feet. Okay, this is the first pasuk of beseeching of the 4 psukim that we said that the Yanuk says to say. This is the first one. We look up at the sky and we say, Einai tamid el Hashem, and you say Hashem's name. My eyes are always looking for you, Hashem, because I need you to help me get out of the mess that my life is in. And we're all, on a certain level, we all have traps that we have fallen into, nets that we can't get our feet out of. It doesn't have to be a physical net, of course. It means, he said, she said, now she's mad at me because I didn't say, and he's mad at me because I did say. You ever had such a right, a 3-way, a 4-way? A net that you got stuck in, a trap that you got stuck in? I said I'd invite them for Shabbos, but now I find out that my in-laws are coming. My in-laws don't talk to her because now you're in a mess, right? How are you going to get out of that? They called me about a shidduch for so-and-so, and I know really that family is really such and such. How am I going to say? What can I say? I can't get to the Rav. They're calling me every 10 minutes. The guy just came in from America to go out with the girl, and they're waiting for right? And I can't get it. I need help. I'm stuck. Hashem takes us out of all the reshets that we're in. Also, a reshet, the worst reshet is confusion. A reshet means a net or a trap. The worst is confusion. That's the worst. Because, and it's like, how it is when you're trying to unravel a ball of thread, a ball of yarn. Yeah? How do you unravel that? You have to find the end and then pull the end through. You have to go to the tachlis, the end. The only way to unravel a ball of yarn, it's not called depression. It means confusion. Reshet is confusion. Listen, confusion can lead to a lot of different things. It usually doesn't lead to depression. It usually leads to anxiety. Confusion usually leads to anxiety and to not to depression, because confusion is an active physical, an active psychological mindset, whereas depression is a negative or a passive psychological mindset. So we got to get out of the confusion. Such a confusion in this world. So Hashem, you take me out of the confusion. Just take me out, straighten out my life. And again, how do you unravel a ball of yarn? Okay, I'm an expert in this because I like to crochet. I haven't in a very long time, but I like to. And I always invariably, get a traffic jam. The yarn gets all mixed up, right? So how do you really unravel it? This is what you have to do. You have to, for those, I'm going to give you now a quick, for free lesson. First, you have to open up the yarn as much as you can, and then you have to find the end. Find the end, or cut off and make an end. And then you pull that end through until you get. So what's the end? The end is really the beginning, and it's really the tachlis. It's really the purpose. What's the end of everything? The end of everything is what's the purpose of life. Once you find the end, you focus on the end, or you focus on the beginning. It's the same thing. Then it's easy. I can't believe what time it is. We have to go already. Well, then it's easy to get out of the yarn. So you have to focus on, Rabbi Nachman says, always focus on Olam Haba. Focus on the end. The end is going to be good. Right now, we're just on a train. And in that train, we don't have such a comfortable compartments always. Some people travel first class. Some people travel, cargo. But it's only to get us to Mashiach's time. It's only to get us to Mashiach's time. I already heard from one Rav that that this whole thing with Ukraine actually ushered us into the official Mashiach era. One Rav said that. I'm not going to say who. Somebody that I respect. And so you see how gradual that was? It just happened 2 weeks ago. Did anybody none of you are walking around with like halos or anything like that. But he said, this officially entered us into Mashiach's era. Like it's been since the year 4000 in Hebrew calendar, it's been Mashiach's era. But this is like I forgot what word he used. It's Kufat HaMashiach, maybe he used. Whatever it is. In olden days, they used to have old washing machines. Anybody remember the old washing machines where every time the cycle, like after, the knob would turn automatically to the next cycle or to the next, right, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, right? And the knob would turn automatically to let you know where it was in the cycle. So the knob has turned. We got to the next knob, right? It switched to the next. I mean, I think we've been in a spin cycle for a very long time. So maybe the spin cycle is already finished, and I don't know. Only in the end but that's what he said. Einai Tamid al Hashem. So say this pasuk. Okay, let's say the Tehillim. We have 2 more minutes. So let's say from the beginning of the parak. Okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to say. I'm just going to say. You can say with me from the beginning of the parak until and including the pasuk we just learned. Ready? Paragraph Hey 25. With Hashem's name, and we could say it for Mashiach Tzidkenu. We could say it for all the Jews in Ukraine and in Russia, because the people in Russia are also, the Jews in Russia are also, it's not so easy for them. David, Elecha Adonai Nafshi Esa, Elohai Becha Batachti, Al Evosha, Al Yatsu Oivani, Gam Kol Klevecha Lo Yevoshu, Yevoshu Havogdim Rekam, Derachecha Adonai Hoidieni, Rochasecha Lamdeni, Hadricheni Ba'amitecha Lamdeni, Ki Ata Elohai Yishi, L'schaki Lisa Kol Hayam, Tzachor Rachamecha Adonai V'chasadecha Ki Me'olam Hema, Chatos N'roiv Shaya Al Tizkor, Chasadecha Tzachor Yata, L'matzucha Adonai, Tov V'yashar Adonai, Al Kein Yorech Chatoim Badarech, Yadrecha Navim B'mishpat, V'lamed Anavim Darko, Kol Orchos Adonai Chesed V'emes, L'notzrei V'yisol V'edosav, L'man Shimcha Adonai V'salachta L'avoni Ki Rav Hu. Mi ze ha'ish Yirei Adonai Yarenu B'derech Yibchar, Nafsho B'tov Talim, V'zaro Yirash Aretz, Sod Adonai Lireyav, Uvriso L'hardi Am. Einai Tamid El Adonai Ki Hu Yotzi Mereshes Raglayim. Okay, Be'ezer Hashem. Next time I think we'll finish, maybe. Okay, so now have a great Shabbos. Shabbos Parsha Zachor. Everybody can unmute and say hi to each other. Shabbos Parsha Zachor. First of all, many of you will go to shul and hear Parsha Zachor. Wednesday time is Esther. Shir. Rebbetzen Dov will send you a link. I don't know exactly what time yet. It could either be this time or maybe an hour earlier. So have a great preparing for Purim, and Be'ez Hashem, just miracles. And right. So also remember that on Purim, in case I don't speak to you, on Purim you say Parak 22. Start Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Next week, you say 22. That was the one that Esther Malka said. David Melch made that for her to say. He saw it. He said it in prophecy. She said that when she was davening, going to Achashverosh, and just have a fun Purim, a happy Purim, a good Shabbos, a good Yantif.